Officials in the Mid-Ohio Valley gave an update on the conditions they've been battling from last weekend's snowstorm. Our Peyton Brooker has more on this story in Parkersburg.
The West Virginia Division of Highways and the Wood County Sheriff's Office have been working to keep people safe during the snowstorm over the weekend. According to Wood County Sheriff Rick Woodyard, the office hasn't been as busy as the first snow season with incidents.
It hadn't been as busy as it was on the first snow we had. Obviously, when we have the first snow, we have a lot of wrecks. Unfortunately, in the first snow, we had some injuries there. But in the last 72 hours, we've had 6 wrecks with injuries, and we've had more of vehicle assist, where vehicles are running off the roadway, going into an embankment, or have slid into snow and went into the median.
The District 3 Manager of the West Virginia Division of Highways, Mike Daley, says the DOH has been doing well, even with the below freezing temperatures.
We're doing a really good job considering the temperatures. The temperatures is really what's hurting us the most. Anytime you get around 0 degrees, the materials doesn't work as fast, and so we've been fighting with that. It's the biggest thing, materials freezing up. And we're trying to get them out here on the roadways. They're freezing up in the truck, so we've got to deal with that.
The West Virginia Division of Highways on Tuesday began the efforts on the back roads in the Mid-Ohio Valley. Daley adds the most common complaint is for people asking to get their roads done quicker.
Well, the biggest complaint is we're not getting there fast enough to get their roads cleaned off. And like I said, the temperature, the weather conditions dictates exactly what we can do.
With still icy conditions here in Wood County, the Wood County Sheriff's Office and the West Virginia Division of Highway urge people to still be careful when they're out on the roads and take any precautions necessary if they are able to drive.
Have resources that you need. If you live on a back road and you don't have four-wheel drive, get some tire chains or something like this to make it safe for you to travel, during these events.
Make sure you got gas in your car. Make sure that you have blankets, water. If you're diabetic, have something in there that you can snack on for that ailment, and be prepared for roadway hazards.
This is Peyton Brooker in Parkersburg, WTAP News.